Hey, Lauren, you know what would be a great idea? Let's wait until it's night and dark out to record chapter 3. Because, you're always more chill and, less anxious at night, and it'll be great. And let's just completely forget the fact that it's July 3rd in the United States of America. So, this is all to say that you may be hearing some subtle distant explosions throughout this chapter. And don't worry, it's fine. We're just celebrating our freedom. It's fine. This is the chapter that I've done literally the least planning for. I think my outline that I wrote 2 years ago has about 2 bullet points on this, so let's see where this takes us. Anyway, enjoy chapter 3. Here it is. Kiaan energetically threw open his bedroom door and burst out into the hallway, a grin smeared across his face as he jumps in front of his guard, looking up to her, looking up to Niah, excited for her first day. She flinches at the sudden appearance and the burst of energy, a little bit caught off guard, but gives him a small, welcoming smile, but a bit confused at the same time. How does it feel to be officially a palace guard now? Kiaan asked excitedly. Niah raises a brow. Well, it's been about 20 minutes now, so it's a bit hard to tell. Kiaan gestures to the empty hallway. Well, there's not much more to it than this. So I think you have the gist. I mean, except for that one time. That one time, there was a lot more. But that's an exception. You probably, hopefully, won't have to do that again. I mean, a good life is a boring life, right? Though, he looks to her scar on her face and kind of cringes, realizing what he said. She clearly has not had a boring life. Niah stands tall and a bit stiff in her guard uniform. Her hair's been recently cut. Bangs swept to the side out of her face in a short pixie cut, I guess it's called. Her guard's uniform fills out her normally thin frame. She looks down expectantly at Kiaan. Are we just gonna stand here in the hall, or is there something you actually need to do today? She asks, a bit jokingly. Kiaan frowns thoughtfully. Well, I don't really have any lessons planned for today. And I already went out with my camera yesterday. So I thought maybe we could go down to the training grounds and, I don't know, practice sparring. In the time since the attack at the summer house, Kiaan had put a lot of time and effort into making himself so that he wouldn't be so helpless or frozen if he ever got into a dangerous situation again. He had gotten lessons from many of his guards on self-defense and learning how to keep up and how to not freeze and how to disarm or grapple with someone if the time ever came, if the need ever arose. Niah's time, on the other hand, had been spent going through guard training and taking the exams necessary to be appointed as a guard for the palace, and especially to be the guard of the youngest son of the head family. Kiaan took time out of his day to visit Niah while she was training, while she was studying. And they would hang out briefly, but she still seemed distant and cold when they did. Though she slowly started warming up. She moved through the training quickly and competently, as he had expected, though she didn't raise the bar as much as he had expected. The movements he saw during the summer house incident were much quicker and more fluid and more decisive, whereas during her training sessions and her lessons, she seemed to be holding back for some reason. If she had demonstrated the skill she had shown when he first met her, she easily could have gone through the ranks quicker. She easily could have been the fastest person to progress through the guard training, and she could possibly now be the youngest person to be appointed a guard in the palace, but she managed to not stand out among the ranks of other graduating guards in the training. And Kiaan was uncertain whether that was intentional or he had just over-exaggerated what he saw and how he saw her act during the summer house incident. Part of his goal in inviting her to a sparring session at the training grounds was to try to test her or provoke her to see if she really was holding back. When Kiaan suggested training with her at the training grounds, she raised an eyebrow. That I was supposed to be your guard, not beat you up. Kiaan grinned. Oh, so you do have a sense of humor. That's good to know. As Kiaan led the way to the training grounds, Niah let out a exaggerated sigh. I signed up to work with you all day, every day. What have I gotten myself into? They went to the outdoor training grounds together as it was now late into the spring, and it would be much nicer and cooler to be working outside rather than the stuffy indoor gym. It was basically a large field, and around it there were some benches, like a little dugout, benches, equipment, shelves for hanging up whatever equipment you bring with you. Kiaan goes to his locker and starts getting his equipment and gear out and changes for the oncoming workout session with Niah. Oh, do you not have any equipment or workout gear here? Kiaan asks as he watched Niah stand awkwardly to the side. Again, I've only been here a day, so I don't have any locker assigned to me, and it's not like I had anything to move into my new dorm. Besides, I'm on the job, I'm supposed to stay in uniform. Kiaan shrugged as he pulled a lightweight t-shirt over his head. I mean, I'm your boss, and I say it's fine for you to not be in uniform. I don't care. Besides, it's gonna be hot doing training in your uniform. Like, you're gonna be dying. I don't want you to get heat stroke. I'll make sure you get a locker assigned to you. And if you ever need any equipment or gear or, anything, let me know and I can have them stock it for you. Workout gear is definitely something that should be provided to you as part of your job. You do have regular trainings, right? I think that's a thing my guards do. Niah nods. Yes, that is a thing that we do. And yes, I have workout gear. I just didn't know what the day had in store for me, so I didn't really bring anything. A locker would be nice, though. Thank you. Niah takes off the jacket to her guard uniform, revealing a long shirt underneath, and hangs up her coat on a nearby hook. There's a handful of other men and women hanging out nearby, some of them guards that she has trained with, some of them guards that are on duty, and some that she's never seen before. Kiaan saw her nervously eyeing the other people nearby and gave her a nudge. Hey, you're not nervous about being watched, are you? It'll be fine, don't worry about it. Thank you, but I'm fine, Niah said, brushing him off. They go out together, pick a nice grassy patch somewhere in the middle, distancing themselves a decent bit from the other pairs that were sparring together. Kiaan gets into his ready position, squaring up to fight against Niah, and she does the same, facing him and moving her weight onto her toes. She nods approvingly at his stance. She gives a gesture that she's ready, and Kiaan moves quickly forward. He throws a punch at her, but she quickly blocks it, swiping his arm away. He tries for a combo, but again she's able to quickly and easily block his advance. Niah throws an elbow at him, hitting him in the shoulder and sending him a couple steps unbalanced off guard. And from the corner of his eye, he can see the two of them catching the attention of some of the other people nearby. He had a tendency to do that when people saw that he was on the training grounds. It's not every day that the head family's son comes to join them. Niah gives him a moment to regain his balance instead of doubling down on him, which he's thankful for. Niah points to her feet. Stay on your toes a little bit more. Don't be so flat-footed. Kiaan takes a deep breath and nods, taking in the advice. He shifts his weight and bounces forward again. He dodges to the side as he sees her readying a punch. In the moment of her shifting weight, he aims a kick at her to throw it off balance. And as he's throwing the kick, he sees the faintest movement as Niah's weight shifts, and she starts to instinctively dodge out of the way, but then she stops herself, and she takes the kick and lets her balance shift. He throws a couple more hearty punches, and Niah stumbles, falling to a knee to catch herself. Kiaan stands back, panting, breathing heavy, his arms still up, his stance still ready to fight. But at this point he looks up and sees a handful of people cheering for him and clapping at seeing Niah on the ground. She looks up at him and gives him a very approving nod. You've come a long way, she said, taking his hand to help her up. They end up doing a little bit more sparring together. She wins a few more matches, he wins a few more. But he still senses that she's intentionally not doing her best. She helps him with his form and gives him tips on what kind of strategies he should use against what kinds of people. Other guards come and go from their training, curious about what's happening, rooting for Kiaan when they spar, and as always offering their own tips and advice. They spend the rest of Niah's shift eating lazily in the cafeteria. So what do you like to do in your free time when you're not beating up assassins and cooking food for the lead family? Kiaan asked in between shoving forkfuls of food into his mouth. Niah shrugged noncommittally. I hang out in the library. We have a library? Kiaan asked, surprised about her knowing something that he didn't know. Niah gave him an incredulous look. You have lived here your whole life and didn't know there's a library? It's on the 3rd floor. I guess I'll have to check it out, Kiaan replied, making note to find where the library is. Honestly, I didn't know people still read books. I thought it was only for, old ladies and people who literally have nothing to do. And I guess Etsu people probably use books. Do they even make books anymore? Niah rolled her eyes at him. Yes, they still make books. They don't print very many, but they still make them. Though most of the stuff in the library is pretty antique. Also, don't compare me to an old lady, thank you. Kiaan saw the time on the clock tick closer to the end of Niah's shift, and her replacement would be coming pretty much any minute. So how's your first day on duty? Kiaan asked with a big grin plastered on his face. Niah looked off to the side, contemplating the events of the day. and gave a shrug. It wasn't what I was expecting, I'll give you that. But it was pretty good, she replied. What were you expecting? Kiaan asked. Well, honestly, I expected to follow you around from a distance, to not be acknowledged, and to stay silent and not talk. And, I don't know, stare into space for the whole shift. But really, it ended up just seems like I'm just being paid to be your friend? Kiaan laughed. Well, you got me. That's secretly all my guards are. I can't have friends unless I pay them to hang out with me. You found out my secret. They laugh and joke and tease each other when the next guard comes back and replaces Niah from her shift. They wave goodbye as Niah leaves with a smile on her face, and Kiaan considers it job well done on his part for getting her to open up a little bit more and gaining himself a friend. How wholesome. Late evening night was shining into the palace through the tall, high windows, casting a golden light on the stone and metal walls. Kiaan was leading his guard for the evening, Eshan, up to the 3rd floor to find the library. He had looked through records on his tablet and was finally able to figure out where in this palace this library was. It was nestled off into a corner that really had no other reason for anyone to be there. So he's not surprised that he missed it, but it's also, this was the building he grew up in, and how could he have missed this? But when asking around with his other guards and other people he saw on a regular basis, they hadn't been to the library either. It seemed like Niah was the only one who was a frequent visitor there. He wasn't sure what he was expecting to find in the library, but when he stepped through the entrance and saw the rows and rows of towering shelves and the curving staircase that led up to the 4th floor with even more books and shelves on a balcony overlooking the grounds, his jaw dropped. He was suddenly pretty overwhelmed, but saw someone at a counter carrying a stack of books that she was sorting through. He approached her for help, seeming like that was a good choice to make. The girl behind the counter perked up in surprise at seeing him. Surprisingly, she seemed to be about his age, though she was pretty small and wore her long, dark hair in 2 little buns. "Hello, visitors!" she said excitedly, bouncing towards them. "What can I help you with? What are you here for?" Kiaan was still a bit overwhelmed when the librarian approached. "I didn't know this existed, so I guess I'm just checking it out." "Well," the librarian said, "what you should be checking out are some great books. We have a lot of them. I don't know what you like to read, though. If you let me know what you like to read, I can probably make a suggestion. I've read, obviously not everything. It's my goal someday, but not quite there yet. Not even close yet. And a lot of them are really boring. But I am sure we can find something that you like." Kiaan hesitated to answer. I guess what's popular? I don't know. Niah recommended that I come here. I guess she spends a lot of her time here, and I wanted to see what it's all about. Kiaan said, looking around at the grand place, still a little bit in awe. "Oh, you must be Kiaan, the guy that she babysits." No, that's not the right word to use. I am very sorry. Guards. Guards is the word. Guard. That you're his guard. Yeah. She's actually here right now if you want to go say hi. I can take you to her. I'm sure she'd love to see you. I mean, she works with you, like, most of the days, but also, like, I'm sure she'd love to see you in her free time. Kiaan couldn't help but laugh at her energy and directness. Okay, yeah, I don't mind saying hi. Go ahead, lead the way. Yes, sir, will do. Thank you. Follow me. She is usually up in the balcony at this time of day. She led Kiaan and his guard Eshan up to the next floor and out onto the balcony where they could see the sun setting over the campus. And on one of the outdoor chairs, Niah was sitting with a hefty book on her lap, her legs crossed, resting on an ottoman. She looked up from her book with a raised eyebrow, making eye contact with each person as they had interrupted her quiet time. But still she smiled, gestured for them to come and sit down with her. I see you finally found the library, Niah said with a smirk. Kiaan shrugged. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that hard. Just had to look up a map. And I only took the wrong turn, like, twice, but I'm gonna blame Eshan. I'm gonna blame that on Eshan. Eshan scoffed as he stood behind Kiaan. The librarian shifted awkwardly on her feet, obviously contemplating whether she should sit in the group or go back to her librarian duties, and like debating in her head, unable to come to any conclusion. Niah let out a light-hearted laugh at her nervous, indecisive behavior. Sit down, Soul. You're welcome here. Come on. Kiaan blinked. Oh my gosh, I forgot to ask your name. I guess I'm Kiaan. You already know that. Who are you? I'm Solaine, she answered. Or you can call me Soul. I go by either one. I look after the books. Been doing it for a couple years. Took over from my grandfather. And, it's just me and the books. So what do you do all day? Kiaan asked. Solaine looked around and thought, I do a lot of reading and a lot of, let's say writing. And then whenever a book is falling apart, I'll work it back together. And then sometimes I'll just, run around the shelves. Because what else is there to do? The usual. What do you like to read then? He asked. So, I have a list. And it's going in order of, I haven't really figured out the order yet. I have a list, and I need to organize it into an order, because right now it's very overwhelming and I have no idea where to start. But I am working my way through the library. I have finished, some thousand number. A lot. I've read a lot, and I'm gonna read a lot more. Basically everything. I really like fiction, but there's some stuff Niah really likes reading on history, which is boring. But I guess she finds it interesting, which is, good for you, I guess. Niah rolled her eyes with a smirk. Oh my god. Yeah, not to Niah. Then what are you reading about? Right now, I am reading about the founding of Halah and how its government has been set up. Because I don't really know a ton about that. I grew up in Alaria, so I don't know, kind of learned the basics of your country, but don't know a ton about it. Oh, I didn't know you grew up in Alaria, Kiaan said. What made you come to Halah? Niah furrowed her brow and looked up. Well, I guess I just needed a fresh start. There's just A lot I needed to get away from back home, I guess. Sorry, I'm being really nosy, Kiaan said. I'm glad you ended up here, though. I guess I'm gonna try reading a book? Sol jumped to her feet. I have got a recommendation for you, she said before running off back inside. Kiaan looked to Niah with wide eyes. Is she always like that? Niah laughed. Well, more or less, yes. She is very passionate about what she does. Eshan leaned over the back of Kian's chair. I think you guys are all just a bunch of nerds. He joked. Niah glared over at Eshan. I'd chuck this book at your head if I wasn't so afraid of Solaine coming back and murdering me for it. They all laughed together. And when Solaine comes back, she's excited again on her feet, describing this book that she's recommending. So this is a book that I just finished, and I really need someone to talk to about it, so I'm going to recommend it to you, and you'd better read it because and come back and talk to me about it. Because Niah over here is reading all of her boring history books and doesn't have time to talk to me about this book. Niah laughs at that. Sorry. But Kiaan takes the book from Solaine and looks over the cover. It's a fiction story. It's really sweet. The main character, I mean, I think he might kind of be like you. I think you can relate to him. And it's just, I'm not good at explaining plots. It's just read it and you will like it. Just trust me, you will probably like it. I know I just met you, but I have a feeling you're gonna love it. Okay, well, thank you, Kiaan said. How do I check it out, you said? Sol waves at him. Oh, I already did that. Don't worry about it. Sorry I checked out too. Just bring it back eventually. Or I will find you. I will hunt you down. And I will find you. And I will get this book back one way or another. But you're gonna love it. So I won't have to. They all get cozy out on the balcony. Solaine goes back inside to continue her work on putting books away and whatever new tasks a librarian needs to do for the day. Niah opens her book back. Eshan kicks back on one of the chairs out on the balcony, and Kiaan opens the first page of his book. And they stay out together on the balcony reading until it's too dark to see the pages, before calling it a night and going back inside. The library experience maybe didn't go as he expected, but he didn't know what to expect, and with the way that it ended, chatting in the balcony and reading as the sun set, there were worse ways to spend an evening. Not nearly as many explosions as I expected for Friday night before the 4th of July. So that's good. As always, thanks for listening. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at LK_draws, where you'll find art that I do. Maybe I'll do sketches for this story at some point. I mean, I probably will. And the music is by Louis Zong. Go find him on Bandcamp. He has tons of great songs. The next parts of this story are going to be probably shorter little vignettes like this, setting scenes, introducing characters, getting to know our friends a little bit better. So yeah, come back, find out what happens next in this story that I haven't named and maybe never will. Oof, it's almost 80 degrees in here. I'm done. Bye.